organized. But they're actually on the ark for a year. Fun fact. So if you guys do Bible trivia, if you guys are like, man, I'm sick of football, I'm doing Bible trivia. We can tuck that one away. Be like, shout out to Rhett, and I know that answer. So they get off, and God's like, I promise to never flood the earth again. And again, we have to turn our minds on, turn our brains on, and think like, okay, could stuff like this be made up, or is it possibly true? Because we think worldwide flood, and the whole world says, or at least the secular world says, that's stupid. And we look at the layers of, I'm going somewhere with this, we look at the layers of the earth and we say, see, millions of years, millions of years, millions of years. Uh-oh, why is there this tree standing vertical between the millions of layers of years? Well, in 1980, when Mount St. Helens blew up, lava came, took down a bunch of trees, it would cascade into water like at lakes, and then it would flood, or it would like fill up with water, and then it would turn vertical and get caught in the mudslide, and there'd be layers there. So maybe the layers aren't millions of years. And maybe that explains why there's trees all around the world sitting vertical under the earth. Food for thought. So we just got to constantly ask questions like, man, is this really true? Or maybe I've just been brainwashed. I don't know, food for thought. Again, like this stuff I've had to think through because I didn't grow up in a Christian home. Like I have my sister here, my foreign exchange students sit there, Jana, hi, from Germany. She's here. I know, that's my voice I do with Jana. Like when she would run in cross country, I'm like, go Jana. She's a snake. So she's here from Germany for a little while. So then, okay, what happens after what happened? I have 13 minutes left. What was wrong with me? So we move on. We get into Abraham. I haven't spoken a lot, so the whole time thing is like, yeah, I think time's alive. So hey, go ahead and reset that back to 30. I'm just kidding. So then there's this man that's really far away, and his name is Abraham. We're in Genesis chapter 12 now. I promise I'm going to get to the last chapter 50, like really pretty kind of quick. So there's Abraham, and God comes to him, and I don't know if you guys ever felt like you're in a faraway land on your own island, maybe forgotten, but God says, I see you. Hey, Abraham, go step outside. Yeah? Count the stars. Okay, well, no, don't actually count. What I'm saying is that your descendants are going to be like the stars. They're going to be innumerable. And actually, he promised him 3 things. I'm going to make you into a mighty nation. Me, I'm old, and it's just me, my dusty wife. Well, yeah, you're going to go I promise you a land, I promise you a nation, and I promise that through you guys, through your descendants, through your kids, that's descendants, there's going to be someone who's going to fix sin. Yeah. I made that promise years ago, before the flood. I'm making it again. So Abraham and Sarah finally do have kids, and maybe you're familiar with Isaac, the sacrifice of Isaac, and then Isaac has a son named Jacob. Jacob is, later on in Genesis, maybe you know him for wrestling with a godlike figure, or God in a different figure, or maybe you're familiar with him marrying 2 different girls, like he dates one for like 7 years, or he works for one for 7 years, and the father's like, oh, we're actually going to give you the ugly one. I'm like, oh, geez, thanks. I guess I'll work another 7 years for you. So he works another 7 years. Again, like, think about this. Why? Like, you put in stuff like, okay, there's a part where Noah's drunk, and he gets drunk and lays down naked, and something weird happens with his son. If this isn't true, why would you put that in there? And we're going to see from Moses really quick that he committed murder. So if this isn't true, why are you making your heroes out to be messed up? But you don't see that in other religions. Like in our college Bible study, we're studying Mormons, and they don't put their flaws and their boys in there. Why not? Why does this? So, and then Jacob has 12 sons, one of them being Joseph. Maybe you know him for, okay, here's the deal. If you ever have like a dream where all of your siblings are bowing down to you, don't tell people don't tell them at the breakfast table. Don't be like, yo, I had this dream last night. You're sitting there eating Captain Crunch. I had this dream last night, and you guys were all worshiping me. Just don't say, you know what happens? They want to kill you. But then one of the brothers says, no, let's not kill him and sell him for profit. So they rip off his coat, sell him for profit. He goes down to Egypt. They take his coat, slaughter an animal, make it bloody, and say, here, Jacob, here, Dad. They killed your son. But God used that for good because Joseph was a faithful man, a righteous man, and so he rose up in the Pharaoh's eyes, and he was number 2 in Egypt. Oops. He was number 2. and there's a famine in the land. And so Jacob and his family and his relatives decide to move down to Egypt. And that's where we pick up in Exodus. That's where we pick up in chapter 1 of Exodus. The very last verse of Genesis 50 says, "So Joseph died at the age of 110. After they embalmed him, his body was placed in a coffin in Egypt." Let's just read some scripture. Exodus chapter 1. Let's just keep going. Hopefully that gives you a broad picture of Genesis. So now maybe you could want to read it more. Okay, these are the names of the sons of Israel, whose other name is Jacob. Sorry, I'm burping. Who entered Egypt. Each man with his household entered with Jacob. Reuben, these are the sons. Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. That's deep. Hope we all got some of that. Okay, all the people who were directly descended from Jacob numbered 70, but Joseph is already in Egypt. And in time, Joseph and his brothers and all that generation died. The Israelites, however, were fruitful, increased greatly, multiplied. Okay, when you see fruitful in the Bible, Hebrew, that just means like they had a lot of fun in bed. And the kind of fruit that they made wasn't like raspberries and peaches. That's all I'm saying. All right, so fruitful, increased greatly, multiplied. You guys look at that in a second. And became extremely strong, so the land yielded them. But then a new king, who did not know Joseph, came to power over Egypt. He said to the people, look at the Israelite people, more numerous and stronger than we are. Come, let's deal with them wisely. Otherwise, they will continue to multiply. And if war breaks out, they will ally themselves with our enemies and fight against us and leave the country. So, God, through one of these descendants, has to send someone to deal with sin. But Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, says, no, not on my watch. They're getting too strong. We've got to make them slaves. So plan A, they were like, all right, let's just beat them to death. But what happens is they actually multiply more. Like the more they beat them, the more they're just like, oh, we're going to have more kids, so continue to beat us. That's what happens. That's plan A. That's in verse 11 through 14. I got to go. Verse 15, they're like, all right, that's not working. We're going to have to go to plan B. Okay, Hebrew midwives, come here. You guys help give birth, right? You guys are like helping, like, whatever, however that works. I don't want to try to explain or diagram or anything like that. So you guys are helping give birth, right? Okay, so I want you to kill all the sons. All the Israelite sons. Israelites, again, are the ones God called Abraham. I didn't explain this well. And then that nation that is now formed is called Israel. But they don't have land. There's no descendant yet. So they have one of the promises that God gave to Abraham. So the Pharaoh's like, okay, kill all the firstborn sons when they're born. They didn't. They feared God instead. Human life, the sanctity of life was important to them. And so Pharaoh's like, what's going on? Like, what happened? So they have to like come up with something because they don't want their heads off. So they're like, listen, Pharaoh, Your Honor, sir, we don't know how it works with you Egyptian women, but with the Hebrews, with the Israelites, like it's quick. It's just like, bang, birth. We're not even there yet. Like, we're way too slow. There's nothing we can do about it. Sorry about that. So Pharaoh's like, all right, plan C. Plan C is verse 22 of chapter 1. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, all sons that are born, you must throw into the river, but all daughters you may let live. So there's another plan to try to kill all the boys. But let's see, and you got to think throughout this whole time, there's been a gap between Joseph, the Pharaoh that didn't know Joseph, and then this new Pharaoh. And you got to think like, God, where's our land? Like, you promised this. Like, where's our land? You said you were going to deliver us. And here we are under Egypt? Man. Beaten? We're God's chosen people. We're your children. And this is, you can hear us? Huh? And then we'll introduce the man you guys are familiar with. A man from the household of Levi, from Jacob's kids, descendants, married a woman who was a descendant of Levi. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a healthy child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she was no longer able to hide him, she took a papyrus basket for him and sealed it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it and set it along the reeds along the edge of the Nile. Then her sister stationed herself at a distance to find out what would happen to him. So So station, like position, right? Like, all right, I'm here about an aisle. All right, station. Mom, you in? Got that. All right, sweet. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself. All right, we have daughter of Pharaoh coming down to do something appropriate. While her attendants were walking alongside the river, and she saw the basket. All right, she sees the basket among the reeds. They're among the reeds right now. She sent one of her attendants, verse 5, took it, opened it, and saw the child, a boy, crying. And she felt compassion for him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Isn't it interesting? So, this is the household of Pharaoh. This is royalty. This is the one that said, kill all the boys, throw them in the river. And yet there's compassion from someone within the household. Miracle. Crazy. Or just God. So what happens is, so she's stationed there. No? Stationed, you don't know what that means? Stationed there, and once she realizes that the Pharaoh's daughter, she comes over and is like, hey, see you come like a boy. Yeah, oh man, we need to find someone to nurse this. Really? Like I know a lady back here, it's her mom, that could maybe raise this boy. Oh, really? Like we'd be willing to pay you. Like we got a lot of cash. Like we could pay you. Oh no, you don't have. How many? I guess if we really want to, you're right. It's kind of a burden. So here, we'll take it. So they got paid for raising their own kid, and then Moses went back to royalty after he was weaned. And then this happens, verse 11. In those days, when Moses had grown up, he went out to his people and observed their hard labor, and he saw an Egyptian man attacking a Hebrew man, one of his own people. He looked this way and that, and saw no one was there. And then he attacked the Egyptian and concealed the body in the sand. Surely this can't be the one God's going to use to deliver this nation, is it? So he concealed the body, concealed the body. When he went out the next day, there were two Hebrew men fighting. So he said to the one who was in the wrong, why are you attacking your fellow Hebrew? The man replied, who are you, a ruler and judge over us? Which is kind of ironic, because he ends up becoming a ruler and judge over them. But who are you to be a ruler and judge over us? You planning to kill me like you killed that Egyptian? So then, Moses became afraid, thinking, surely what I did has become known. When Pharaoh heard about this event, he sought to kill Moses, so Moses fled from Pharaoh and settled in the land of Midian. Oh, 3 minutes, perfect. All right, did a little history. This is where God uses broken people. I asked DJ for this lesson for this reason right here. And I went back and I was like, no. Not many people know the story. But I guess I really want to drive home that God does use broken people. So, a couple of years ago, DJ's one of the first people to know, actually, Ian. I worked at a camp in Cannon Beach, Oregon, and really fun, right at the Pacific Ocean. Like my classroom was like the glass was right here, the beach was right there. We had 3 rules: respect each other, respect people, don't jump over the wall. That was our 3 rules. Like don't jump to the wall, onto the beach. And then the ocean was 50 yards away. And you as a leader, you want to be really wise, but sometimes what happens after you leave, people write you emails like, oh, hey, had a good time, guys, girls, stuff like that. And there's this one girl a couple of years ago that it seemed like a little flirty, and I was like, hey, I'm glad you appreciate it, glad you had a good time, that was sweet. And then it kind of cut off. And this is like 2 or 3 years ago. But then we kind of picked up conversation in December, January. So, and she's from Washington or Oregon or something like that. And then, so we started picking up conversation. And I was like, oh man, I guess she is kind of cool. I remember her being kind of solid. I remember her being pretty cool. You don't know her for a week. You don't really know her for a week. But I was tricking myself and duping myself. So we started Skyping, and she, like I said, she was young. She was working. She was doing the Head Start college stuff like that, whatever they call it out there. But just really quick, just turned really sour, and made some mistakes, like some Skype stuff that we shouldn't have been doing, snapping pics that we shouldn't have been snapping, and it came to kind of a head in the spring when we're fighting this. We're not really telling anyone. We're fighting this. Yeah, we're gonna do better. Oh. And then, so back and forth. And then there's one time when I think we were just phone call or something like that. And I heard her door open,